Hi everyone, I'm Yashra, and welcome to the 23rd episode of Election Scoop. Today we'll be talking about the states that held primary elections on May 15th. Those states were Pennsylvania, Nebraska, Idaho, and Oregon. So let's dive in and see what happened in each one of these states. First, let's look at Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is a swing state which voted for Barack Obama both times, then switched over to support Donald Trump in 2016. The two major statewide races are for governor and senator, both of which are held by incumbent Democrats. In the Senate race, incumbent Bob Casey won his primary unopposed and will be running against Representative Lou Barletta, an early supporter of President Trump, who won his primary. In the governor's race, Democrat Tom Wolf likewise ran unopposed in his primary and will be facing businessman Scott Wagner in the general election. Both are rated as likely Democratic victories, but there is always a possibility for an upset, especially in this very swingy state. Another race worthy of mention is the lieutenant governor's race. The incumbent lieutenant Democratic governor, Mike Stack, got not first, not second, but fourth in his primary, losing in a massive landslide to Mayor John Fetterman. Fetterman is a very unconventional candidate. He has his zip code tattooed on his arm, and he actually lives inside a converted used car dealership. So it's going to be interesting how that race is going to turn out. Next, let's look at Nebraska, which is considerably less of a swing state than Pennsylvania. There is one statewide race happening, the Senate race, but Republican Deb Fischer won't have a difficult time defeating Democrat Jane Raybould in the general election. More interesting, however, is the election happening in Nebraska's 2nd District. In 2016, Democrat Brad Ashford, a one-term moderate Democrat, lost re-election to Republican Don Bacon. It was the only time that year that an incumbent Democrat lost his seat. This year, Ashford ran again, and was considered able to beat Bacon, but in an upset, he lost the Democratic primary to Kara Eastman, a more liberal candidate, by a razor-thin margin. While the 2nd District is competitive, it still is in a very conservative state, and the race was moved to lean Republican from toss-up by most predictors. Nevertheless, it remains a key seat that Democrats can take back. Now let's turn to Idaho, another solid red state. The one major statewide race there is the governor's race. Incumbent Republican Butch Otter will not, as he announced, run for a 4th term. And so the Republican primary in this very Republican state is naturally very crowded. In somewhat of an upset, businessman Tommy Alquist, who had never sought any elected position before, defeated well-known Congressman Raul Labrador by 7 points. Labrador won some counties in his congressional district, but not nearly enough needed to win. The last state on our list is Oregon. Incumbent Democrat Kate Brown easily won her renomination for the Democratic Party and will face Republican Newt Bueller in the general election. This race is labeled likely Democratic because while Oregon is a Democratic stronghold, there is still a possibility for a GOP upset, especially since the eastern parts of the state are very Republican, even though they only make up a small part of the population. But other than that, the races being held there are fairly mundane. So those are the elections that were held last Tuesday, May 15th. Of the 4 looming overall at which party will perform in the state, we rate Pennsylvania as tilting Democratic, Nebraska and Idaho as solid Republican, and Oregon as leaning Democratic. So thanks for watching, and remember, don't forget to vote.